Isabella is a full professor at the University of RomaTre in Rome. Her contributions to the field of social psychology and cognitive science are so many that I won't even try to count them and to list them, because it will take all the time. We are thrilled to have you here, and I'm very grateful because I was looking forward to hear about the topic of today, that is the richness of the gaze communication. So now I will mute myself and let you speak as well as your eyes.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about how rich is gaze, our gaze, as a communication system. Because we do many things with gaze. For instance, we see, we look, we feel, we think, but also we communicate. Because we do other things, like for instance, with our mouth, we can talk, but we can also eat, we can also breathe, we can also kiss. And so the same is for eyes, because we do many things with eyes, but we also do communication. So what I am interested in is to see gaze as a communication system. And since I was many years ago a linguist, then I could not be a linguist anymore, because linguists didn't appreciate what I was doing. And so I became a psychologist. But when I was a linguist, I learned something about linguistics, and I generally, as a psychologist, I often put my linguistic soul, in a sense, into psychology. So, for instance, about eyes communication, what I want to do is to see them as a communication system, and, for instance, as a lexicon. Because what do we mean as a lexicon? A lexicon is a situation in which you have a system of rules to put signals and meanings in correspondence. So, for instance, in eyes, in eye gaze, I have a signal, which is a set of movements and morphological features of the eye region, and I have a meaning, which is a set of beliefs about the world, about the sender's identity, the sender's beliefs, goals, and emotions, which are the meaning of that particular signal that we produce. So my idea is that also gaze can be seen as a lexicon. Like in words, I have a word and I have the meaning of the word. The word is a set of movements of your mouth and some things that you hear by your ear. In the same vein, I think that the signal of gaze is something that carries meaning. And so I want to make up a lexicon of gaze. That is, I want to make a list of gaze lexical entries that is codified signal meaning pairs that are performed through gaze, where the meaning side can be studied by finding out the types of meanings that gaze may convey, and the signal side can be studied by finding out an optology, which is the phonology of gaze. So there is something which we can understand and learn from William Stokoe, who in 1978, the first time he tried to see in gestures some things that you could compare to linguistics phonemes. So he found that a gesture can be done, for instance, any gesture that we make has an hand shape that is a form of the hand. It has a location. For instance, in Italian, I may make a gesture like this before my chest, but also a gesture on my forehead. So they are two different gestures because they have the same hand shape, but they have different locations. So these two dimensions, parameters of gestures, are things that are all together in a gesture and can be seen each by each. So each parameter has a number of possible values. For instance, I may have many values of hand shape. I may have this hand shape, or this hand shape, or this hand shape, and so on. So a sign, and a sign, because Stokey did this to analyze the signs of sign languages. Instead, I did it for the gestures of Italian speakers, and both in science and in language, you can distinguish each possible gesture or each possible sign as a combination of the values that are assumed on all parameters of a gesture. So, if there is a Cherology, which was made by William Stokey, which is the phonology of gestures and signs, why not to create an Optology? So this is what I tried to do, just transferring this brilliant idea of Stokey onto gaze. So we try to find the formational parameters of gaze. Those things that vary in them, you have many different items of the gaze lexicon. So for instance, let's see what are and why they are important. All these aspects of gaze, which are, you see, quite many of them, because there are many parameters. There are many more than the 4 of William Stokey, in fact. Because we have, for instance, the movements of the eyebrows. For instance, eyebrow frowning means worry or concentration. Eyebrow raising means perplexity or surprise. So, in those cases, it is only one value which changes in the movement, in the parameter of movements of the eyebrows, that makes the whole signal change. It is a different signal, you see. So other important things are position, tension, and movement of the eyelids. Because, for instance, you can communicate hate by lowering upper and lower eyelids. For instance, when I stare at you with my eyes like small fessure, small holes, I am hating you. I'm showing you I hate you. But boredom may be instead conveyed by lowering your upper eyelid and so on. And also eyes humidity is important, because when we see a person whose eyes are bright, it may be joy, it may be enthusiasm, it may also be, but with some differences, because he's going to cry, for instance, and so on. And also eyes reddening. For instance, in bloodshot eyes, we are in a rage, really. And pupil dilation, which conveys sexual arousal or other kinds of arousal. And focuses. The only thing that generally people who studied gaze have always paid attention to is the direction of the eye. But what I try to make people understand is that the direction of the eye, of course, it's the most trivial one that we have, but it's not the only parameter of gaze. We have many ones. So all of these are important parameters, as you might have seen now. And also, for instance, not only what is done, but how long it is done. For instance, if I have a long gaze, it might be that I am defying you, or I want to tell you that I hate you and I am about to hit you, or I want you to understand that I love you. So a long duration of gaze is significant also. So I found all these parameters and the values for each of those parameters: eyebrows, eyelids, eyes, eye sockets, and so on. And now let's come to the meanings of gaze. How can we find?
Isabella,
Yeah?
would you prefer all the questions at the end?
No, it's okay
Or
if you want to put questions now.
okay, so while I invite everybody to jump in if they have a question, of course, short question, and then we can discuss longer later. My short question is, if you go back to the slides with the many values, which I think is a good job making a list, I wonder whether we could, I mean, so as you presented it, it looks like a single value has this meaning all by itself. Although I suspect that some meanings can be actually conveyed by a combination, a pattern of values in more than one of these parameters. And I wonder whether you are going to account for these effects
Uh,
or
well, in a sense, I am an elementist psychologist. I am an anti-Gestalt psychologist, in a sense, because I think that I generally use the um, the metaphors of mosaics, because meaning is a mosaic. You see many little aspects of one signal, and each of them carries its own specific part of meaning. And meanings combine together in a parallel way to signals. And so many pieces of meaning combine together and convey a whole meaning. Of course, it is important to see in which context you have that value. So, of course, I think that my, 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 my strong hypothesis, which I think I verified in many cases, but maybe not all, is that each single value is carrying its contribution, and this contributions combines with all the other contributions of all other values. Okay. And well, there is a research that I decided not to tell you because it was too long, but if you want, I can try to retrieve it. Okay. Because
well, yeah, thank you. I didn't want to disrupt the flow, but
yeah.
that's interesting. Maybe we can discuss about it in the
Okay.
Q&A. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. Another thing I want to say is that also for gays, as for many other things, you can have in a sense converging evidence in that you can be opportunistic, as methodologically opportunistic, in that you can use many different methods to find things, to find out things. And so I use many of them. And for instance, the speaker's judgments, the ethnosemantic method, a deductive method, and so on. So in my talk, I'll give you some examples of some studies, and in each of them, I may exploit one or the other of these methods, but I cannot stop so much here. So let's see a first method that I like most, which is the deductive method, to try to make hypotheses about what may be the meanings that gaze can convey. My deductive method is deductive in that I first wonder what are, all in all, the meanings that a human may need to convey in his life. And I think that in all the signals of our all communication systems, we can distinguish three kinds of meanings that we may need to convey in our lives. They are information on the world around us. For instance, when a bee comes back to her house and communicates with the other bees, she's going to communicate about where the food is. So this is a communication of the world. And we also have information on the sender's identity. For instance, I only give an example of gaze, of a gaze signal provided this kind of information. Of course, our eyes, for the shape they have, for instance, for the eyelids, the form, the shape of the eyelids, tell you if I am from a Western or an Eastern country, okay? Because I have the Chinese eyes, shape of eyes. So gaze can also give information about sender's identity, but also it informs on the sender's mind. Let's see more detail, in a more detail, what are they? For instance, let us see what are the information that gaze may provide about the world around us. For instance, with some items of gaze, for instance, when we gaze at something, when only our direction of iris is pointing to some point around me, I may be providing information about some entity, because in this case, I am using a deictic gaze. I can use gaze just in the same way as I use pointing with my fingers there or here, and so on. So I can use gaze in this fashion. And in this case, gaze is a deictic gaze, and it points at particular things that I'm pointing at. But also I can provide information about physical or mental properties of things. For instance, if I say teeny tiny, while you are saying teeny tiny, you are squeezing your eyes because you are iconically representing something very small, very teeny tiny, by making your eyes tiny. Or on the other hand, I can open eyes. He saw a huge house. So in this case, I open my eyes wide. So the eyes may be an icon of what I'm talking about, in a sense. But this may be also transferred in a metaphorical sense to mental properties. For instance, when I say, this is now just be very careful, because we have to be very precise in this. So when I say precise, I'm squeezing eyes, because it's like when we try to look at something by focusing very much, we squeeze our eyes, really. So we try to see better in more detail to things, okay? And finally, with movements, I can look here and there alternatively to portray something, portray indirectly, but portray something that is moving over there, okay? So our gaze may also have iconic properties, because it represents what you're talking about. And here, now let's see the information on the sender's mind. We may provide information about the sender's beliefs, goals, and emotions. About beliefs, we have some information that the linguists call, respectively, degree of certainty is called epistemicity in linguistics. That is how sure, how certain I am of the information I'm providing to you. So for instance, when I make a small flow, when I say this is so, and I have a small, not so huge frown, but a small frown means I am serious in talking about what I'm saying, and I am taking up my responsibility to say so. So it means I am quite certain of it. On the other hand, to the contrary, when I raise my eyebrows, it might be that I am a bit perplexed. I'm not very sure. I'm somewhat doubtful about what I'm saying. So this is about the degree of certainty of the information we provide to others. And also where we also provide metacognitive information that are equivalent to what linguists call evidentiality, which means I not only tell you something, but I also tell you which is the source of the information I'm providing now. So, for instance, if I tell you that I am speaking about something that I retrieve from my long-term memory, for instance, I am trying to remember, you put your eye downward when you are retrieving information from your memory. In other cases, when I look up in the sky, sometimes it means that I am trying to make inferences. So the information I'm going to give you now is one taken by my reasoning, not something that I necessarily remind or remember, but it's something that I am trying to reason about now. We also have provide information about our goals, in particular our performative, the performative of our sentences. For instance, if I order you something, you understand that I am ordering, so I want you to do that thing, also because I have a fixed stare and a frown, because I am serious, almost angry, and so on. While in questions, I generally raise my eyebrows. Are you going home now? And so on. We also provide information about which is the topic and which is the comment, in a sense. And for instance, when I am emphasizing a part, because it is the important part of the sentence, it is the comment, not the old part of the sentence. In that case, I raise my eyebrows just to emphasize what I'm saying, to let you understand that this is important. Then I also can provide meta-discursive information, because I with an eyebrow raising, it means that but is a word that signals that there is a violation of some expectation. So there is something new, something that surprises you. So eyebrow raising is the same gaze that we make when surprised, because but is also telling you, well, what you can expect from what I said before is not the true thing, because I'm going to say something that is the contrary of what you were expecting. And finally, another very, very clear thing that we do with gaze, for instance, are turn-taking and back-channeling. For instance, during conversation, if I want you to speak, I look at you and wait for your speaking. But also I can provide you back-channel, which means that I tell you something about what I think of what you're saying. For instance, I can tell you that I'm following you, and so I can nod, and at the same time I can close my eyes slightly, not for a long time, and so on. So to close eyes slowly may be a way to say I'm following you. Instead, if you frown, it might mean either I can't understand, or it may let you infer this is not that I don't understand, it is that I don't agree with you. So you see in this case a polysemy of the frown as a back channel, because at the first level, it means I can't understand. At the second level, which is the right one in some cases, I don't agree. And of course, we convey emotions like many ones, but what I want to say is that, yeah, it is true that eyes are the mirror of the soul, but not only of the soul. They are the mirror of many other things, of cognitive states, of mental states of any kind, of all these kinds. They are the mirror even of the world around us. So they are a mirror of many, many, many things. In fact, I found out some more than 100 items of gaze in various studies during the year. Now, of course, another important method to use in doing so is systematic observation, which is analyze video recorded occurrences of single items of gaze and find them once and 2 times and 3 times the same kind of gaze with the same values in the same parameters every time. And so you find a gaze type which is there and only has some different tokens, but it is the same type of gaze. And so, for instance, gaze items about beliefs, this is perplexity, this is concentration, this is trying to figure out, trying to infer something, to reason on something. And this is a challenging stare. Instead, this is an emotion already, because it's going from challenge to dismay. This is an emotion. This is instead an interactional action to tell the other, I challenge you, I am defying you, I don't submit to you. Okay? This is terror, this is anger, and so on. In some cases, we tried also to understand if these items of gaze that I had found, for instance, in observation of many, many, many videos, and those that I had figured out deductively by my deductive method, we also try to see if they are really used by people and if they are really systematically shared. Because if you have a communication system, the same the same pair of signal plus meaning that is represented in my mind must be represented in the same way in your mind. When I make an item of gaze, you should understand the same thing that I was meaning, of course. So to try to see this, we made questionnaires, surveys, and so on. So a first research we made, can you tell me the time, please? Because I can't see it now.
It's about 6:15. I'll be grateful if you can do that in 20-25 minutes.
25 minutes, okay, okay. So a research study about the lexicon of gaze was made using the methods of gaze or judgments that are like Chomsky's speaker's judgments, the simulation, that is to try to simulate some gaze in embodied agents, avatars, and so on, and through empirical method. For instance, we made hypotheses in one study. We made hypotheses about 10 lexical items of gaze, and we simulate them on Greatest Face Library, which is a tool made by Catherine Pelachot, whereby you can set all the values in all the possible parameters of gaze, eyebrows, openness of the eyelids, upper eyelid, lower eyelid, direction of the gaze, and so on, of the eyes, and so on. You can move them in very subtle ways, so it's even better than an actor in a sense. So we moved and we made the right faces that you wanted, the right gaze images we needed for our items of gaze to submit to people. And we changed eyelids aperture, half closed, half open, wide open up and down, and so on, eyes direction and eyebrow position. In this case, we made a multiple choice questionnaire, which was multiple choice, but was also open choice questionnaire, open answer questionnaire. And each of the items was an item of gaze, and it was proposed to 100 subjects in this way. For instance, I give you this item of gaze, and I ask you, what does it mean among these distractors and the meaning that we hypothesize as the true one? And there is also others, so they could also propose new interpretations of this gaze. This is one, and this is another one. Now, the results of this study was that for some meanings that we had hypothesized, well, they were recognized at a fair amount of percent of times by subjects. But not only this, also the distractors that were mentioning a meaning which was opposite to the one hypothesized by us were chosen with very low frequency or not at all chosen. For instance, bothered was never recognized as attentive and sad, and terrorized was never a distractor which was never chosen was sad. We also saw the confusions. For instance, there were two items, one is terrorized and one is amazed. You can see they're very, very similar, of course. And terrorized was confused with astonished, deranged, impressed, dismayed, and these. Amazed was confused with alarmed, terrorized, surprised, astonished. So we found out that, in fact, the meanings that were confused, which is with each other, in fact, did share some semantic features. For instance, unexpected events elicit surprise, that is amazement, for instance. But they also may be dangerous, so they may elicit terror. So unexpected and dangerous may walk together in a sense. So we found out that there is a componential relationship between the items that were confused, because the meaning A and B and also C share the same semantic component X, to which each of them adds a different component. For instance, A means Y, X plus Y, B means X plus Z, C means X plus key. So in all of these meanings, there is a common shared meaning of disconfirmed expectation. And when you also have deranged, alarmed, dismay, it is only disconfirmed expectation plus a negative event added. The same, a similar relation we found in the confusion between absorbed and scrutinizing. Because, for instance, I'm absorbed was interpreted in some cases as I am inattentive. And I'm scanning was interpreted as I hate you. I'm scanning you. I hate you. You see, there is a difference in the eyebrows here, but they confuse them anyway. But what is common in these two cases? In fact, absorbed is a cause of being inattentive. If you are absorbed by something, you will be inattentive to something else. And also, hate causes a close scrutiny, because if I hate you and I would like to hit you, I look at you very, very attentively, because I would really want to not lose you from my attention. So both share the value, have closed eyelids. So what we saw was that very many items of gaze in a questionnaire were recognized by more than 3 out of 4 subjects, and the opposite meanings were never confused, and the ones confused had something semantically in common. So this means that a lexicon of gaze is somehow shared by people. Well, now, this is just to show you how we can analyze a single item of gaze. And the single item is alzare gli occhi al cielo, raise eyes up, which is also rolling eyes, but it's not the very same meaning in English as alzare gli occhi al cielo. I think because alzare gli occhi al cielo is a bit more polysemic than rolling eyes. And so we carried now a semantic lexicographic study, which means that we started from a corpus of novels, of Italian and English novels, and we found out the words occhi al cielo, or guardò al cielo, or levò gli occhi al cielo. We found these words in 40 fragments of Italian and American novels, and we attributed a meaning to each occurrence. Then we also submitted this corpus to a sample of subjects and asked them to guess what did that alzare gli occhi al cielo in that case could mean. So each of them gave some answers about this, which provides already a classification of meanings. For instance, this was some items of this corpus. You have the author, the title, we have the context. You find the levò gli occhi al cielo, the item of gaze we are looking for that is described in this fragment of this novel, and you try to attribute it a meaning. For instance, exasperation, resignation, upset, resignation and prayer, and so on. And so the meanings identified were: I'm praying God, I can't do anything about it, I'm reflecting, I'm melancholic, I'm bored, I'm inspired, trying to remember, give up or resign, I'm happy, I'm thinking. You see, it's very polysemic, in fact, but we think it's possible to find, if not one, at least some, a few, a small bunch of common components of meanings that can group some interpretations of these OAC, occhi al cielo. So we clustered them into 4 clusters: plea, for prayer to God, to Lord, to entity; resignation, surrender, give up. These were all the words that were used by our subjects in their explanation of this meaning. Bother includes exasperation, trouble, desperation, impatience, annoyance. and a cognitive class, which includes thought, contemplation, memory, and recalling. So our conclusion was that the common component to all of these 4 clusters is a component of powerlessness, which is shared by all the occurrences of the occhial. Because when we rise occhial, it means that we lack something. We lack an answer. For instance, if I am in an interview and you ask me a question and I do like this means that I'm trying to find the answer. I am lacking the answer, I'm trying to find it. Or I lack the force to carry on in the case of resignation, because in resignation, I say, oh, I cannot stand it, I can't. Or I lack the force to do something by myself, because this is something that I cannot do, so I pray God to do what I cannot do, okay? Or in some cases, I lack the will of continue bearing this unbearable situation, which is in bother. So in this case, we were able to find 4 grand meanings, and among these grand meanings, we found a common core of a semantic feature that is carried by all the occurrences of occhial. Occhial, among these meanings, there is also one which is a discrediting occhial. Now, sorry, I have to sta questo. No. No, I don't. Oh, che bello. Oh, che faccio?
You've closed the. Ah, okay. Do you need to use a video or?
I need to find a video on YouTube, so I have to share the other. Let me see. Just I put it here. Dove cazzo? Allora. Now you will not see it, of course, because this is not shared, but I'll share it now.
Let's do this way. Put in the chat and I will share it and then give you back.
Okay. Well, but it's not, no, it's not the, I think I'll try to, if I can find WebEx, which I can't now. Dove sta WebEx? Where are you?
It's a bit tricky.
It's tricky. If you are here, no. No, sorry, I can't show you this part. So I move on to another part which was already shared. You will not know anything about discrediting eyes. Not now, at least. Oh no, questo si è ricosato, no. So now another thing I want to do is to tell you that, of course, like in words, we have lessici specifici, we have specific lexicon, specific parts of lexicon for a subculture of people. So also in gays, we have specific lexicons. For instance, sometimes I studied the lexicon of teachers. And in this case, what I want to show you is the lexicon of the conductor. A conductor in a concert must have, in a sense, a shared lexicon with the musicians that is going to conduct, because a conductor conducts today in Ireland, tomorrow New York, tomorrow in Israel, then Japan, and so on. And he has also very few rehearsals. So there must be a shared lexicon of conduction. And so I try to find the lexicon of the body of the conductors in gestures, face, gaze, posture, and so on. And so in a study, I try to find out the conductor's gaze lexicon. So it is an observational study of several minutes of musical performance, and each item of gaze that I found, I analyzed it with this annotation scheme. For instance, here there is the reference, the time of in the video. Then here you see if someone is singing or if there are the notes of the music and so on. Here there is the verbal and the other modalities like gesture that the conductor is performing at the moment, at that very moment, and then we see the gaze. And for instance, if I see that he is looking rightward, I try to guess which is the literal meaning in general of this gaze item, which is in this case, I request your attention, because anytime we look at someone, we are requesting our attention. But in the context of music conduction, this has a more specific meaning. This has the meaning of be ready to start. So this is a request from the side of its performative. It's a request of starting. So at the end of this table, I also tried to understand which is the semiotic device that is used to construct this kind of gaze with this kind of meanings. So let's see what are the semiotic devices that I found out. For instance, in some cases, we have generic codified items of gaze. In that, we have an item of gaze that is used also in everyday life. For instance, to request attention is a gaze that we use every day with other people, not musicians. But in some cases, like in the one we have seen, it is a specific codified because it is directing gaze not only to request attention, but to give the start. Then we also have direct iconic gazes. For instance, when he raises one eyebrow, in some cases, he is meaning you have to sing a higher note, because higher my eyebrow, higher, here there is a transfer from the visual mood to the acoustic mood, okay? So I am metaphorizing, in a sense. I am making a metaphor from something which is higher visually and something which is higher because it has a higher frequency, okay? But we also have indirect iconic signals of gaze, because, for instance, when he says sforzatissimo, he squeezes his eyes, but squeezing eyes is the same movement we do when we are putting some big effort in something. So when I have to, sforzato means with big effort. So I use the movement I generally use when doing something effortful to mean do something with high effort. So this is iconic too, but it's not that directly iconic. Another very clear case is when I and this is something that I saw not only in conductors but also in pianists. When one has to play very, very forte, he does like this, frowns his eyebrows, which is the expression of anger. Why? Because anger is the emotion which most of all mobilizes my energy, because I want to hit people. And so if I mobilize energy, I can play strong, forte. And so this is what also the conductor does, because by mirror neurons, he has musicians understand that they have to put all their energy in music. So there are many, I found 17 items of gaze in conduction. And I just show you some of them. Then, not now, I think. Then I can come back if, for instance, just some of them are these ones. Piano, you see that in piano, he raises, this is Alessandro Niballi, who is my conductor, of choir Orazio Vecchi in Rome. He raises his eyebrows. When I raise my eyebrows, in some cases, it is because I want not to be too heavy on things. So, in order to be lighter in a sense, that is to play piano, I have to raise all of myself in a sense. Instead, sforzato, he's frowning his eyebrow, you see. And here, when he closes his eyes, he's saying, I concentrate on the pleasure of music. They are only some cases. Now, let's see a case of a performative of order. He's ordering the choir to play very forte. You see how angry he is with his face. Can you hear it also?
Fortunately, I am afraid that Cisco is not optimized to share videos.
I see. I see.
We can see them, but it lacks a lot. I'm sorry.
Oh, I see. Well, it is not very good in itself. So, okay. Well, because there are so many of them. So you suggest to give to. Let's try just another one. Did you hear the music?
At some point I did, yeah.
Okay. Let's try. This is a performative gaze, a warn, because he is wants the sopranos to sing just in the way he wants. So, yeah, you saw his. Could you see here? Can you see something at least here or not?
Yeah. That we can. It's a good
He's
idea to.
opening his eyes more wide here, and he also has an oblique gaze. You see that the direction of the eye is not in front of himself. He's looking at the sopranos, but with his head turned in another direction. So when the direction of the head is not the same as the direction of the eye, we have oblique gaze, which is sometimes we say in Italian, we have an idiom, guardare di traverso, is something which is something suspicious in fact, because I don't trust you completely that you're going to do that thing. So this is why it's an oblique gaze. This is a starting gaze. you saw that at the end of the video, he turned his head to his left and also his gaze. And with his gaze, he looked at the section he wanted to start. You saw that you see, he's looking at the section, at the singers in the section. Here it is solicit. Since when he is making, you see, this is a gesture of precision, and which means you must be very accurate in taking that note. But the same thing he does with his arched eyebrows. This is a case of continuation. When you shake head and you raise only the inner parts of the eyebrows. Like he's shaking his head means that you have to go on like this. The shaking combined with the inner parts of the eyebrows there. So this is clear that he frowns when wanting forte. Now I think I can move to, I cannot move at all, in fact. È successo? Ok. No?
Fortunately, I have to urge you toward a conclusion, please.
Yeah, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, you said?
Oh, well, yeah, please.
Okay, no, my conclusion is that here there are some other, also in this case, we conducted a study about the conductor's gaze to verify if really the meanings that I had found in the observational study were shared by people naive and expert in music. And our questions were the following: how shared are the meanings of the conductor's gaze, and is their interpretation different between music expert and non-expert subjects? And so we tried to see this on 8 gaze items out of the 17 found before, and our conclusions were that some items, like the technical ones, like start, high note, piano, and forte, reach a fair level of comprehension, and those of attitude and emotion tend to more frequently be interpreted as indirect technical indication. So the thing that I told you, that very often when the gaze is intended to literally show anger, in fact, it is interpreted as, I want you to play forte, just because of that thing that I had told you before, that it is that indirect iconicity of gaze items that I was talking about, because in many cases, I can imitate sorry. I can imitate the expression of an emotion felt or a movement done while producing a certain sound. And so doing this means the sound. Expressing an emotion like anger means I want a sound that requires anger, which is forte, or squeezing eyes, which is the movement that I do when putting some effort in something, is a way to make you understand that you have to be very effortful. Okay, so this is the indirect iconicity that we find in gaze, not only of lay people, but also of conductors.